girl on fire. I'm not a victim, a girl on fire. I'll stand my ground, girl on fire. I've made a choice, I stand proud. I'm a girl on fire. I'm a mother, a daughter, a sister, a friend. I'm every woman. I have taken up arms and I choose to defend all that I hold dear. Independent and strong, you will not keep me down. You can't break me.
Lynette Oxley here for Tack Shack Tactical TV and Ghosts of Girls on Fire for our 16 days of action for no violence against women and children. I'm here with Mariandra, also another very pretty lady. Thank you very much for speaking to us, Mariandra. It's quite a name as well.
Yes, it is.
You had a bad incident, and that's why we're talking to you today. But let's start by saying, who is Mariandra Heunis right now?
Sure, Mariandra Heunis is facets of all the women I've been before. I am Mariandra Heunis. I'm a mommy of 4, single mommy of 4. I am a widow and I am a funeral undertaker. The life-changing events that took place ripped our lives apart, but it was always also the birth of a new one.
So tell us what happened. It was on the 1st of October in 2016, am I correct? Somewhere early in the morning hours.
Yes. So at the time, I was a stay-at-home mom with the 3 little girls aged 2, 4, and 6 years old, and I was 8 months pregnant with our little boy. It was a normal day, still took the kids to school, came back. My husband worked late. We had dinner. We fell asleep on the couch in the lounge upstairs. And at around 12, 12:30-ish, I heard the dogs barking outside. My husband was too tired to wake up, so I got up and I checked every window and made sure everything's locked, couldn't see anything. Lay back down on the couch. Mika also fell asleep on the mattress in the lounge with us. The other 2 girls were downstairs in their rooms. Then I remember waking up again and the dogs were still barking, and I checked again, which I never really do. I never really check anything. It's been safe up until then. Saw nothing, couldn't see what they were barking at. I assumed that it might be a small animal, a cat, a rabbit, don't know. And I fell back asleep. And then I woke up to a sound, and I thought it's my younger daughter, aged 4 at that time, that came up to find us. And I remember still looking over the couch and not seeing anything. And it was the weirdest feeling, an uneasy feeling. And I lay back down. And the next moment I was woken by a sound that the police later explained to me was the cocking of the gun.
So I wanted to ask the question, it was a handgun, am I correct?
It was a handgun,
because there was in one of the reports it was a shotgun, and that
it
couldn't work, what I've read about this stuff.
No,
so it was a handgun. So he was basically cocking the
gun. And as I shot up, they were standing right in front of me, 2 of them. Gun already pointed at me, and they immediately started screaming and shouting. And I, of course, started screaming and hysterically, and my husband woke up. Mika woke up. She was screaming. And my husband literally just came up on his elbow on the couch, and he spoke to them so nicely. So firstly, they wanted to know, they wanted money, and we said to them, we don't have money in the house, but they can take anything else, just don't hurt us. My husband even explained to them where the valuables were, the cars outside, the TV, the computers. And the one guy just said, this man is a killer, he will kill you. And the shots started ringing out.
And they started shooting for no reason.
They just started shooting. I didn't realize, I saw the hit my husband took to I thought it was his shoulder. I saw it. And he crouched forward onto the floor, and my little girl was running between the mattress and her daddy, and they shot at her, but they missed. And they then pulled me up off the couch, and we had a struggle. That part of the evening I still block out to this day. I don't know what happened. I don't know how I got back on the couch. I just know my little girl at that point put up her little hand and said, I've got a piggy bank. You can take my piggy bank. Just leave my mommy. At that point, Johann got up for the very last time. And he pleaded, please. And the one guy just said, just kill him, brother. And they shot him execution style in the head. He fell at my feet.
What was there any emotion in them?
Aggression.
Just aggression.
Just aggression.
They were not on drugs, that you could see, just aggressive.
No, not that I could tell in that moment. I mean, my focus was all over the place. Between this unborn baby, my husband right next to me, and my little girl running back and forth. I didn't know where to shield or where to, but it was very like they came in for a reason, and they did what they wanted to do, if that makes sense. It was, to me, it's overkill. Why shoot someone so many times? I mean, he was shot 6 times. The police said to me afterwards that he should have been dead before he got up, before the shot in the head. And I couldn't understand it at all. Until I got the post-mortem report eventually from the investigating officer, which showed that the first bullets went straight into his heart. The first one. And he was shot 5 times after that. So it's pure willpower to me.
Where were your other 2 children during this?
They were downstairs in their rooms. So the younger daughter, the middle daughter, she woke up when I ran downstairs after everything. She was awake, she was screaming. She heard everything. Then my youngest daughter was 2 years old, but she was also screaming in her cot.
Why did they leave?
So after they shot Johann, the final shot, they again came to me, put the gun to my head, and they asked me where the other children are. I still put the pillow between me and them, between my stomach and them. And I remember the thought going through my head, what is this pillow going to do? Because I was at that moment, what was going through my head was my children. If they shoot me now, this baby's going to die. How my girl's going to get help, how they're going to get out. So I just said to them, please just leave. You've done enough. Those were my words. And they literally turned around. I watched them walk down the stairs, unlock the front door and walk out casually.
So the one that shot your husband was the most aggressive of all of them?
Yeah.
That's what they said. He's a killer.
Yes.
So now you don't have a cell phone, how did you call for help, and how did this happen? Once they left, I didn't know where they went. Are they coming back? What's happening? So I immediately ran downstairs and locked the door. Ran back upstairs. Mika was at my side the whole entire time. I checked Johann, and there was so much blood, and I could just see, the head wound. And so then I started running for the phones, and I realized that the phones are missing. And I had to make a decision there, because I can't phone for help. I can't run to the neighbors, it's too far, and being pregnant with the 3 little girls, I don't know where they are. So I made the decision to get them into the car and leave. Which was also one of the hardest decisions I had to make, because I had to leave Johann there. But I had to get the kids away from there. So, interestingly, I ran for the spare keys of the car in the cupboard. And that's the only thing that was missing, was the cell phones and the keys for the car. So the police did mention afterwards that it might be that I could not leave and I could not phone for help. Got the spare keys, ran to the rooms, and I was so relieved when I got downstairs and I saw they weren't downstairs. Got the kids in the car, drove to the nearest fuel station, which is about 10 minutes away, on gravel roads. Lights off. I remember I switched my lights off because I didn't want them to see me.
And afterwards, my sister asked me, "How did you see? How did you actually?" Because it's quite winding. Yeah, it's dark. I said to her, "I don't know, but I could see." Got to the nearest fuel station, stormed in there in my pajamas, kids were in the car. And shame, those poor attendants there just saw, because I was all over the place. They said, no, they'll phone the police, they'll phone the ambulance. So they did that for me. The police met me at the garage and they followed me home.
How did the police treat you?
Overall, I must say, not too badly. It's to me, they're very insensitive, but I suppose they have to be desensitized to it. It was a long journey from there. Yeah. It's a difficult thing because for me, I didn't want to know too much about the case because I was so severely traumatized, but also you want justice. So I got tired of hearing how far it is and this is happening and these questions, and it was statements and statements and statements. We had to do identikits. My little girl had to help with that because she took in more detail than I could at that night. And I had to get her to help with that, although I did refuse her to be part of the court case because she was severely traumatized. She was a broken little girl. But they were overall, we did the identification in early 2017.
So it was about less than a year later?
Yes, yeah, about 7 months later. Had to go for an identification, and the traumatologist that I'm still seeing came with, and they refused to let her in with me. I didn't know what to expect, and she explained it to them as such, because you get there, they stick you in a room, you wait there, and then they just take you down to the room, and it's cold and it's hard, and the guy there just said it's too much paperwork to let her in. So I had to go into this dark room alone. Fortunately, it was behind glass, but it's completely overwhelming.
At least it's behind glass, as I just said earlier. Sometimes they want you to go and touch the person. Did you recognize him straight away?
I did. I went through all the faces one by one, and then at some point my legs gave in and I was on the floor and I started crying, and then I realized this is the perfect position because I was seated, they were standing, and that's when I recognized. I checked the hands, I checked posture, I checked feet, and that's when I recognized them, yeah.
Was he convicted for murder?
He was. Eventually, I had to go testify in 2018, December. Those were 4 long days to sit outside and wait for your turn to face him for the first time since the incident. It's a whole story on its own, and they always advise you, do not look at him. And the traumatologist, everyone was sitting on the right-hand side, and they said to me, look at us, don't look at him. But I mean, he's 2 meters from me in the courtroom. So I tried that. And at some points, I thought, no, I want to look him in the eye. And I looked at him, and he was looking down, and I'm sure he could feel me looking at him. And as he looked up, he gave me this smile. And I just wanted to stare him. That looks to kill. I felt like that. And then he just looked down. He couldn't look me in the eye from there. But yeah, he was eventually sentenced in 2020. He got a life sentence and 15 years.
Okay, hope he stays there. Yeah.
We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. You talk about your trauma, the trauma.
Yes.
How do you still have PTSD, and your daughter Mika and your other children?
Yes. So it's interesting how it affected them differently, being different ages and different personalities. I still deal with PTSD. It's much softer. I think I've learned to ground quicker and how to recognize the triggers by now. So, but it's still there. my little girl Mika was severely, well, still is. She's still dealing with it because she's still learning the triggers. She can't ground herself. She went to traumatologists as well and therapists, and at one point she said, "Mommy, I do not want to talk about this." She refused to go back to that evening. So we couldn't deal with it because she just shut it out. She didn't want to see pictures of Daddy. She threw her grief and her trauma into one basket. So whenever she misses Daddy, it takes her back to the evening, and vice versa. So it was just a big mess. She lost her whole identity, grew up instantly. She still doesn't sleep through the night. When she hears something or when the power's out now, like she's load shedding, she doesn't sleep. And unfortunately, when she triggers, she spirals. So at the point where about a year after that, where she said, "I do not want to do this anymore," she spoke to me and she asked me the tough questions. So, and I can't sugarcoat anything for her because she was there, she saw it, she saw all the detail. And I actually went on and I studied trauma. I studied NLP. I studied all to help her and myself, but it's harder to help yourself.
Always.
It's harder to help yourself. So I did it to help her initially because I had to understand trauma to be able to ground her. Because if she triggers, I trigger. And I had to learn to ground myself much quicker so that I can help her. My younger daughter, Misha, she had aggression. She was so angry at the world, at me at some point, at herself, because she felt that I could have done more. She felt that Daddy could have done more. She felt like she could have done more. So we had to go through that process and work through the aggression and the anger. Mariandra, my youngest daughter, she was really tiny, but she's more grieving than traumatized. She was so small. Arya, my little boy, is interesting, and I've been looking to find studies of that kind of trauma in women. I can't find any.
Because I wanted to ask you, he was born 5 days after your husband's funeral. Because he's growing up without the person that's his father, and there's grieving people all around him.
Yes.
So, how does he deal with this?
He was born with a frown. He just lay there frowning for 4 or 5 days until he first opened his eyes. The night before the funeral, I actually had labor pains and was rushed to hospital, and they were waiting for me. They said, "Mrs. Heunis, we've been waiting for you for days now." I said, no, this baby can't be born now. I have a funeral tomorrow, I'm going. And they checked it out. They said, "No, his heart rate is very high, but he's okay. I need to calm down." And I said to them,
Wow.
"Okay, I'll try." So I actually had a conversation with little Arya still in room, and I said, "Listen, boy, you have to wait. We have to go to Daddy's funeral." He was born with the doctors being very worried about his heart because of all the adrenaline that he got. They said he's going to have colic and all these things. I need to be prepared. He was born healthy, anxious little baby, very attached to me, of course, and he also had triggers. Dogs barking, he started screaming. His sister's voice, if her tone of voice lifted upwards, if she started screaming or crying, he started screaming and crying. If I triggered, he triggered. And that's still like that to this day. I will trigger during the day, and he could feel it. He acts out. Still.
Yes, there's no studies, you say, have done
There's
about
no
that,
studies.
He was part of it,
He
but not
was
part
there.
of it. But
He was there. He was about almost 2 years old when he actually one night started talking about daddy ow, and he kept doing that. And I said to him, "Arya, explain to me what's going on," because he was so upset. And he was talking about the roof falling in, and Daddy was being shot, and it was sore here, and the hochas was chased out of the house, and he had this whole thing about how I assume how I spoke to the traumatologist about how he remembers it. Look, now I don't think he remembers it anymore, but he was there. Unfortunately, I found out last year or the year before last year that he has slight hearing loss. Took him for hearing tests and all these things, and they asked me about the pregnancy, and I said, well, it was a healthy pregnancy, but this is what happened. And according to them, because of the shots fired so close to him, he has hearing loss in his right ear.
That's interesting. Yeah. You're still living with it every day, all of you.
Yeah.
Financial strain, because you were very young. You're still very young, and you were not prepared for being a single parent of four kids.
No, that was not the plan. Unfortunately, there was no planning. There was no financial nothing. So literally everything was ripped away that night. Our breadwinner, everything. We never went back to the house. I only went back to pack Oya's hospital bags. Friends and family packed up the entire house when I was in hospital with him and put it in storage until I could find a place to stay. So there was literally nothing. I think I had 4,000 rand in my bank account, and I still had to do the funeral and everything. Find a new school for me because she started grade 1. Find a new place to stay. So I moved in with my sister for a little bit. I had to start working immediately after Oya was born, because I had to get an income. So that's how I got into this line of work that I'm in now. Sonia, she actually did my husband's funeral. She came to me afterwards and she said, well, come work for me. I think you'll be amazing at this work. And I looked at it and I thought, no one wants to be an undertaker. So I said, I don't know. I can't work with death after what we experienced. But then I realized that there's a new plan and I have to try. I have to start somewhere. And I very, very quickly realized that we don't work with death, we work with love. And the calling, I didn't find the calling found me there.
It's interesting. I spoke to a chief pathologist earlier this week, and it is the way you deal with it.
Yes.
It's dignity and
Care.
passion and care,
Yes.
which is important.
Yes.
So I think we've got through all of the things. The last point that I wanted to ask is, you made a video of, I don't know if it was TikTok or YouTube, and it was about your farm murders because you were on a small holding.
Yes.
And you got a lot of negative kickback. I actually watched the video this morning, and there's no reason for it to be.
No.
And some very nasty messages,
Yes.
which I'm sure hurt a hell of a lot.
Yes.
And did you ever take action against those people, or did you just let it go?
At the time, because I started doing the awareness for the farm attacks in South Africa, and I really got busy with it for the cause of it, because in that community, in the widow community from farm attacks, they're scared. They don't speak. And I wanted to give a voice, not only to Johann, but to every single violent act like that, where a family is ripped apart. I wanted to give a voice to them. So I did that, and I did so passionately for the cause. Everything you do for good has a negative side to it, and especially publicity. It's a double-edged sword. I wasn't completely prepared for that. So yes, I did get, especially when I addressed the international media, I got threats. I got threatened life threats, that they saw my daughter wasn't raped that night, they will come and do it. Things, horrible things. So I was given the option to open cases against these people of, is it crimen injure?
Yeah.
But I decided against it because I just thought, someone's already angry at me. I'm woman alone with my 4 kids. I do these things and I do it for the cause of it, but I go home alone. I fetch them from school alone. So I decided against it. Yeah, and that's also a big reason why I stepped back from the awareness 3 years ago. Is just the safety of my kids, being in the spotlight the whole time, and also I never realized how traumatizing it is to keep telling the story over and over and over again until I stopped.
I'm sorry that I'm putting you through it now. But so maybe let's end off. What is your message to other women in South Africa and overseas? Because there's violent
Everywhere.
people out there. I've never realized how evil, true evil. I actually asked this one lady, the pathologist, is there true evil out there? And she says, yes, there's true evil out there.
But it's not monsters, it's people.
It's people, the person next to you that does this stuff.
Yes.
What would your message be for people out there, for other women?
I think my message would be that we all have a story. No one on this planet Earth can say that they haven't been touched by trauma or pain or grief. We all have our own story, and we need to start sharing the stories, because when you start sharing your story, not only could it give hope, but it just lets people know that you're not alone. From deep pain comes big purpose. It's just having the courage to push through the harder days and get up. You don't even have to do anything, even if you just breathe. Just get up.
Thank you very much. Thanks for sharing your story with us.
Thank you, Lynette.
Thank you, Mariandra.
I've made a choice, I stand proud. I'm a girl on fire. Countless hours on the range, I am responsibly armed. I am your equal. I've empowered myself, I have practiced and trained. Fear won't control me. With my sisters in arms, we will make ourselves heard. We'll stand together. I'm a girl